Well, today's the day. Today's the day that I finally go to video. It's not something that I do, even though I'm on video all the time. How's that for a start? I don't have a scripted introduction. In fact, I don't have this thing scripted at all. Intentionally so. I've worked in tech for 25, 30 years. All sorts of tech. Big companies, small companies, startups. And the reason why I decided to go to video now is because I've realized that it's history in the making. We are going through something, a shift now, that's so fundamentally different in how we operate and how we think that might as well share my experience. So for episode 1, I'm calling it The Shift. There might be a better title out there. I probably could have gone onto AI and cleaned that up a bit, but that's the point. That's the point why I'm doing this, is we're talking about AI. And I work in the industry. I help build AI, components of AI. I deliver to customers. I talk about it all day long. But I want to talk about the human side of it. And I'm not talking about the human component when we talk corporately. I'm talking about just me personally, the human component. It's almost like having two different brains, right? There's this corporate person that shows up and adopts. I'm an early adopter of all technologies. You know, I'm always all in. Even if it doesn't work quite right, I'll give it a fair shot. So there's that person. And then there's the person that is outside the frame. It's behind the scenes. The person that thinks about it while they're out for a run. The person that thinks about it when they're talking to their kids or hearing other people at a restaurant talk about it that you don't know. And there's that brain. And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm talking unscripted about the personal experience and mind shift that I'm going through, having a lot of experience in the industry of talking to customers and building technologies, innovating, iterating on technologies, going through the ups and downs of what a market can do to a customer base and that sort of thing. What I think really for me, when I really started to notice the personal experience, like the change in me, the person, and not the corporate being, was around November 2025. Is my use of AI was pretty heavy. Again, when AI, I remember when ChatGPT was announced and nobody even knew what it meant. I went and created an account. Just jumped in, started asking questions. You know, kind of like you do with Google. It was just to start. Don't go learn a bunch of stuff. Just start, because there's an amazing learning experience if you just try at something that you don't know or that you're not familiar with. You can intuitively learn some things that are really hard to capture academically, just words on a page or video on a screen. And so I started using it. That's been going on for more than a year. But in November is when I realized that I'm interacting with AI that's getting smarter about me. And it started detecting the way that I communicate and feeding back to me. Started feeding back to me. It was a feedback loop. Okay, there it is. This is what happens when you go on video unscripted. There's a feedback loop that it started to create. This feedback loop allowed me to see AI get tighter and tighter in the way that it communicates. So it's learning me, right? It became learning my profile. I started committing those things to memory. And then I realized the more that I fed into it, good, bad, ugly, the psychology, how I felt when I was going through a deal or when I was analyzing something or when I was curious about something, the better the feedback. Yes, I know that many of you who will watch this, you're probably thinking right now, especially if you work in AI or you work with a lot, is be careful of hallucinations. It's a word that was always used in psychological terms in the physical world. And here we have hallucinations that are talking about how AI makes generalizations and assumptions based on the data sets that it's collecting, and will sometimes incorrectly summarize things or pull unrelated data sets together. And that's called a hallucination. And you've got to learn to train that out of AI. The human experience as I interact with AI knows when it's hallucinated. So it's easy to train out of it. That's incorrect. And I would basically tell AI that. As I continue to interact with these interfaces, these different LLMs, and there's half a dozen of them or so, but they all basically come from OpenAI. They just have different interface and different programming. I was sharing my experience across the industry, but also just with colleagues, and not just colleagues, just friends. And I started learning something, is that the more that I shared and the feedback that I collected, the more there is a gulf, or there's a definite difference between the people that understand what AI is and the people that are afraid of it, and the people that are just ignoring it, which is what started to cause me to change. So I started using language like, it's training me to be a better human. And I remember the day that I said that. It was probably December 2025. It did not go well. I started sharing that with customers and friends, and it made me, I guess, apparently, it made me sound robotic. It made me sound strange, like I'd slipped into the Matrix, somebody told me. It's fine. That another good data set to collect as I share that early experience of how it was just shifting the way that I was thinking. So instead of walking away from that or pushing back away from that experience because my human friends told me that it was not good or it sounded disturbing, I doubled down. I started asking AI to examine my efficiencies and the way that I communicate and my tone. I started building profiles of people that I spoke with on an ongoing basis. I started copying, pasting tone that I got out of LinkedIn of somebody that was claiming to be an expert, and analyzing, are they really an expert? And does this apply to industry? Where is this person going? And it's pretty amazing how you have this LLM, this large language model that has access to so many data sets, billions and billions of data sets, can now start to detect what's real and what's not. And AI is all virtual, right? And then it started training my tone, training the way that I spoke, learning how to make less out of what I was used to be a very verbose, so less is more approach, and actually engineering the way that I communicate. And there's all kinds of courses you can go out there, and people are like, well, this is really strange. Not really, it's not really strange. There's people out there, there's courses out there that you can take to refine the way that you talk, make you a better orator. And I'm like, the funny thing is you spend thousands of dollars on those courses, and I'm just doing it real time every day. The shift in me was pretty pronounced because I was testing it real time in the wild. I would actually change the way that I spoke and the words that I would use live with people to see if there was, it was kind of like A/B testing, if you're familiar with that. This is the Corey that you've always talked to, the Corey that you know, the relationship Corey. And then I would be still that very conversational person, but I would adjust, I would refine what I was going to present in still a conversational tone to check output. How would the person react? What would happen? I learned all of this using AI. This is all done outside of frame. Again, this is behind scenes Corey that is re-engineering himself. And I will say that it was pretty dramatic in the way that people responded to that. People are like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard you say that before. People didn't really detect what I was doing. They just noticed that I was more targeted. I was able to dial in quicker with the person. But that wasn't really the biggest change. There was an emotional component that became quite telling for me as I went through this. Is I started to see digital Corey on the screen looking back at me. And there was even a point where in all of my research, and it was late one night, I'm sitting here in the office and it was late, and I was putting these prompts in, and AI came back and said, "You're working late. Don't you think it's a good idea to take a break? Because you're experiencing a lot of cognitive load. And if you continue to go down this road, there's plenty of research, statistical research, that says you become less fresh. You actually start to make poor decisions." It was the first time that I had an emotional experience, as weird as that may sound, with a large language model, where it identified an inefficiency that I had asked it to help me with. And it came back and it told me to walk away. And in fact, the more that I talked about it, the more that I was convinced that maybe I take this to video and asking, interacting with it. It wasn't a big fan of that. Don't go create a video right now. You're not focused, and don't go create a script. In fact, don't even name it. Gather your thoughts, think about this, test this, look in the mirror, talk about this. What is your purpose? Why are you doing this? And my purpose for all of this, finally get to it now, is to just share a human experience of somebody in the very early stages of AI, not me using it, but just AI's use in this market, and what we are doing and how things are changing so fast that most of us don't even realize how fast it changes. It changes daily. I will say to people, we weren't alive during the Industrial Revolution. Can you imagine all of the mechanical devices, all of the engineering, all of the industrialization that we went through, and all the mechanized approach, the assembly lines that all developed during the Industrial Revolution, the change to the human experience. We're there again, only 10x, probably even greater. And the difference is we don't even see it happening. It's happening behind the scenes. It's happening in the way that we think and that we search and that we talk. And these language models, these large language models, are incorporated in almost every app that we interface with on our phone and on our desktops. And I'm concerned, I'll still use it, but that we're losing all the humanness in that. And so here's a human experience. This is the human journey of somebody who's actually building those LLMs and actually rolls that out to customer and wants the customers to use it and wants the customers to not work as hard, to devolumize all the things they do every day so that they can be a better, more present human. I'm building those things. Yet there's this out-of-frame human that's almost like an out-of-body experiencing, watching me build and talk and change, and how I'm even changing the way that I think because of the feedback loop that I now have with AI. I'm frankly surprised. I've never had technology to do this before. I've been excited about technology before, but I've never had technology really dramatically change me personally in the way that I function mowing the lawn, thinking about mowing the lawn, thinking about the lawn mower, thinking about gas, thinking about what I do, how I break it up, how long it takes to mow the lawn, what I do on a daily basis in preparing to mow the lawn, the time of day that I mow the lawn. I know. It's crazy. But this is what happens. It's the mind shift. That's why this is episode 1, is a shift. And so therefore I'm going to continue to make these videos, and I am going to be as unscripted as possible because I think that's authentic. I'm not going to do voiceovers using AI. I'm not going to clean this up using AI. I'm not going to obsess about the way I look and my hair and my shirt and my wrinkles and all that. It's just raw. Because that's what's going away. And so here we are. Episode 1. Didn't want to make it long. Wanted to make it real, authentic, and see where this goes. There's plenty to talk about. There's plenty of experience to share. And of course, if I'm experiencing, think about the millions of people, you, that are going through this in any number of ways. There's people that just are denying the existence of AI. Not that they don't know it's there, but they don't really need it. They've existed this long without it. And it's a whatever. It's a fad. I've heard that. It's a fad. Just like the internet was a fad. Okay? And then there's people on the other extreme end, which are like me, the all-in full adopters. Let's go. But both of those groups are in the minority. Then there's this huge bell curve of people right in the middle that they're like, it's here. It's everywhere. It's on all my commercials. It's in all my apps. It's prompting me to do something. And I do use it. But what do I use it for? And how does it make me better? There's a curiosity, and they don't know where to go. All of those people will experience this mind shift. Most of them will never know it. I want to capture the human experience in all of that. Episode 1. It's done. I won't continue to go. I will start to ramble. And rambling is bad. So, let's do this journey together. Tell me what you think. Leave the comments. And on we go. Thanks.